Over the decades, dozens of hikers and campers have disappeared without a trace in this dense forest. Investigators have found abandoned campsites and personal belongings, but never any sign of the missing people. Authorities have theorized animal or human attacks, but no evidence has ever been found, and the cases remain a mystery to this day. We weren't expecting anything unusual. We just wanted a weekend away from it all. Me, Leo, and our friends, Chloe, Mark, and Sam. We arrived in the late afternoon and set up camp as if nothing had happened. The lantern was broken, and the hot dogs Chloe had brought were a little warm. I didn't sleep well that first night. The ground was hard and the lake had a strange smell, like copper and mold. I figured it was fish or algae. Around 3 a.m., I got up to go to the bathroom and noticed something between the trees. I couldn't make out what it was, just a silhouette, too far away to make out. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. I guess my eyes were playing tricks on me in the dark. The next morning, Mark found something behind the tent. A deer, or what was left of it. Its innards were all out, strewn across the grass. No head, no real shape to identify it. Mark tried to act casual, but his hands were shaking as he used a stick to poke at it. The ribs were broken, as if someone had broken them with their bare hands. Sam said we should leave, that it didn't feel right. Chloe told Sam not to be so dramatic. I just stood there staring at the lake. The water didn't ripple, didn't reflect the sun properly. It just looked flat, as if it were waiting for something. That night, we sat closer to the fire. No one spoke, but the laughter died down. We kept looking back at the woods. They weren't noisy or full of movement like normal woods. They just stood there, like a wall of eyes watching. We zipped up the tent all the way. Mark kept a pocket knife in his sleeping bag. Sam held the flashlight like it was a gun. I lay in the corner, trying not to breathe too loudly. At around midnight, we heard something outside. It wasn't a step. It was a shuffle. Slow, deliberate. Then it stopped right next to the tent. I opened my eyes but didn't dare move. I could hear breathing outside the tent, heavy and uneven. Then a hand, or something shaped like a hand, pressed into the fabric, right next to Sam. The fingers were long and crooked. They pressed hard, then pulled away. A second later, the flashlight flickered. That's when I realized Sam wasn't breathing. I turned, my heart pounding. Sam's face was pale, his eyes wide. His neck was torn on one side. I don't know why I didn't hear anything. It seemed like whatever had done it didn't want to wake the others. Then I heard a deep sound, like leather sliding over wet cloth. The zipper began to move. It didn't open quickly. It moved as if someone wanted us to know they were coming. It was worse than a scream. I wanted to scream, to kick, to crawl away, but I couldn't. I just stared as the tent flap opened. The thing that came in wasn't human. It stood on two legs, but they were too long, bent the wrong way at the knees. Its skin looked dry and pale, cracked like old flesh left out in the sun. There were no eyes, just deep slits where eyes should have been. Its mouth was open, revealing rows of sharp, uneven teeth. It gasped for air and leaned toward Chloe. She woke up and started screaming. Mark lunged forward, screaming her name and trying to push the creature away. It barely responded. It grabbed Mark's head and slammed it into the tent pole in a single motion. I heard a sharp, wet crack. Mark collapsed, blood pouring from his nose and ears. Mark didn't move again. Chloe scrambled backward, kicking wildly. The creature grabbed Chloe's ankles and dragged her out of the tent as if she were weightless. Chloe's screams were cut off as it bit into Chloe's neck. It didn't kill her quickly. I could still hear her choking as she chewed. I stayed where I was, my heart racing, trying to disappear. I finally moved as it dragged Chloe's body out of sight. I crawled to the side of the tent, slashing my arm across the torn fabric. I didn't look back. I just ran into the woods, bleeding and shaking. 3 days later, the police found the campsite. They blamed a bear, maybe a coyote. Nothing stolen, no footprints, just carnage. They didn't know what to do with it. I never told them the truth. They wouldn't believe me. And even if they did, what good would it do? I know what I saw, and I know it's still out there. My story begins like many stories these days, on a dating app. I met her through Connect. Her profile was Jenny. She looked very calm in her photos. Nothing flashy, no heavy filters, no duckbill. Just a few selfies, a simple bio, and just enough sarcastic messages to keep me interested. We talked for 3 nights. Jenny had a dry sense of humor that I liked, and the way she responded made me think she wasn't like the other girls on the app. She wasn't overly flirtatious, nor was she trying to impress. And honestly, that won me over. She asked me to meet. I didn't even have to ask. That surprised me. She picked a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. I got there 15 minutes early and waited outside, pretending not to notice every girl who passed by to see if it was her. Then someone stopped in front of me and called my name. It was Jenny, or it was supposed to be Jenny. I looked up. The woman standing there looked familiar, but wrong. She looked about 5 or 6 years older than Jenny in the photos. The face was similar, but everything from the jawline to the eyes was strangely off, like a faded, distorted version of the photos. Listen, I know I look different. Please don't leave yet. I'm not trying to be deceitful, it's just I have a hard time showing who I really am. I don't think anyone would swipe on me if I didn't. She spoke. Her voice was shaky, almost pleading. She looked genuinely scared. I should have left. I should have said that this was an unacceptable deception. But I didn't. She wasn't unattractive, in fact. Beneath all that panic, she had a beauty of her own, more real than in the pictures. And the way she looked at me, as if expecting me to hate her immediately, made it hard for me to get up and leave. So I stayed. We ordered coffee. The awkwardness faded. She started making me laugh again, just like in the text. But there was something behind her words, like she was watching me closely, too closely. But what really caught my attention was her phone. It kept lighting up, call after call from unknown numbers. She didn't answer any of them. After the 5th call in 15 minutes, I finally spoke. Is it work? It's not important. I'm off today. I thought it was probably nerves. But then I noticed she was watching me from the corner of her eye, as if waiting for me to ask again. So I didn't. I just kept talking. After a few minutes, I asked her where she lived. Why do you need to know that? Jenny asked. Her voice was low. Not angry, but low, controlled, as if she were trying not to blow up. I backed away and said I just wanted to keep the conversation going. She didn't answer. 3 nights later, I was at home when she called me. No text, no warning, just a surprise call. I picked up. Hey, I need you to come over here. Please. I need help, Jenny said in a hoarse, panicked voice. I should have known better, but there was something in her voice that pushed me. It didn't sound manipulative. It sounded desperate. So I took my keys and left. Her house was on the outskirts of town. It took me 40 minutes to get there. The place looked like it hadn't been there in a while. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. And then the door opened. It was Jenny, but not like before. Her eyes were wide, her skin pale. No, it wasn't her. Who? Who are you? I asked, horrified. My name is Mark. Jenny is my girlfriend. You were going to see her, but you saw me instead. I backed away, but Mark had a gun raised. Don't move. As soon as I heard that click, I acted. I didn't think. I lunged forward, knocking Mark over. We both fell to the floor. The gun flew out from under the sofa. Mark grabbed me by the collar and threw me into a table. The table shattered, splinters of wood piercing my hand. Mark lunged at me and punched me. I felt my nose shatter. I grabbed a piece of the broken table leg and swung it at Mark's temple. Mark screamed and fell. I crawled toward the gun. Mark kicked me hard in the ribs. I held my breath in pain. Mark pulled my ankle back, but I spun around, clawing at his face. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it until there was a crack. We were both bleeding. I kicked Mark in the chest with all my might, staggered to my feet, and searched for another weapon. I grabbed a nearby decorative tile, turned around, and slammed it into Mark's jaw. Once, twice, 3 times. Mark didn't move. I stood over him, dizzy, coughing, my whole body aching. I was about to call the police. But then I smelled something else. Not the original stench. Worse. Stronger. It was coming from the end of the hall. I shouldn't have gone any further, but I couldn't stop. The flashlight picked up plastic sheets on the floor, dried blood, and a mattress soaked in dark red. In the corner were large, black garbage bags tied tightly. Shakily, I walked to the nearest one and tore it open. Inside were hair and a chunk of scalp. The next bag was a neatly severed arm. Another had a lung wrapped in rags. I backed away, retching. I looked at another bag that had been torn open. A face stared out, blank and bruised. It was Jenny, the real Jenny. He hadn't just killed her. He'd cut her into pieces, arranged them. I shakily called the police from the porch. The police cars arrived, lights flashing. They arrested Mark, still breathing but barely conscious. I told them everything. They believed me. They found her ID, her clothes, her blood in every room. I deleted Connect that night. I never re-downloaded it. That day, I realized that things can always be worse than you imagine. Some people fake their profiles. Others become the profile itself. I was 11 years old. It was a Friday night, and I was staying over at my best friend Mark's house. For a kid like me, this was an extremely exciting event. I had been tired from school all week, and I just looked forward to the weekend so I could have fun. My plan was to sleep over at Mark's on Friday night, play all day on Saturday, and then go home in the evening. What was even better was that Mark's parents had an important event to attend and would be home late. They trusted the two of us to look after the house for about 6 hours. I arrived at Mark's house around 8 p.m. His parents were already waiting to give us the necessary instructions. A list of emergency phone numbers, food prepared, and most importantly, to bring Lucky the dog inside before it started to rain, because his kennel in the yard was a bit old and could leak. As soon as his parents left, we started our own party. We watched a few movies, had dinner, and played cards in the living room. Everything was perfect. Suddenly, Mark had an idea. Hey, why don't we go to the abandoned lot down the street? It looks a little creepy. It might be fun. The lot had been abandoned for a long time. overgrown with weeds and trees, surrounded by an old fence. It sounded like a fun adventure. We called Lucky into the house, got the keys, and set off. It was only about a 10-minute walk from home. If we had gone back then, things might have been different. But at 11, we were brave and reckless kids. Let's play a game. Each of us sits in a corner and see who gets scared first. Mark said. We stood facing each other and slowly walked back in different directions until we could only see each other's silhouettes. About 10 minutes passed in silence. Suddenly, I saw Mark stand up and run very fast towards me. He ran as if someone was chasing him. I was about to tease him that he had lost. "Let's go. Hurry up. We have to feed Lucky," Mark said. I was a little confused because his parents had already prepared food for Lucky. But looking at Mark's pale face with fear, I knew something was wrong. We didn't say a word, just ran. Mark held my hand so tightly that my wrist was bruised for days afterwards. When we got home, Mark locked everything. Lucky also seemed uneasy. He kept barking at the door. While we were sitting there, I saw something crawling in the bushes, right behind you. It was coming towards you. I didn't want to scare you, and I didn't want that person to know that I saw him. So I made up a story about feeding Lucky so we could leave. Mark said. After hearing that, I felt a chill down my spine. We didn't dare tell anyone, for fear of being scolded for going out alone. About an hour later, as we were trying to calm down, Lucky started barking furiously downstairs. This time his barking was strange, full of ferocity. There was a man standing in the middle of the yard. He was wearing old, dirty clothes. Even in the dim light, we could see him clearly. He was trying to open the door. The basement door. I forgot to lock the outside door, Mark whispered. Our faces paled. If he had come in through the basement door, there would only be a thin wooden door separating us from him. The noise outside stopped. Then there was the sound of a window being forced open at the back of the house. Then a crazy, creepy laugh rang out from the yard. The strange man began crawling around the yard on all fours, his head tilted back, staring up at the balcony where the two children were standing. The man crawled around the yard like a beast, his laughter never stopping. He threw his head back, his crazy eyes fixed on the balcony. We just stood there, horrified, watching that scene. He kept crawling and laughing like that for about 20-30 minutes, then suddenly stood up, climbed over the fence and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, Mark's parents came back. They saw the main door handle covered in mud. "Why is the door so dirty? What did you two do?" "We were playing hide and seek. I thought of a trick to make the house really dark, so it would be harder to find," Mark said. His parents looked suspicious, but didn't ask any more questions. We never told the truth. Maybe until now, we still don't understand everything that happened that night. But I know one thing for sure. If he had gotten into the house that night, I probably wouldn't be here today to tell this story.